Kevin, sorry about.
It's okay. I forget. See, thank you. Whoever said that, thank you very much. I am recording now.
Okay, so you should have all your environment ready, and you should have, sorry, the setup page. So we will switch to the app, the sales app. Click on it, and then you go back to the global environment of your salespeople. Okay. The first thing we need to do, the best practice to check if a record is already existing is yes, to make a global search. So this is the first thing to do as a salespeople, is to check, for example, is Mr. John already existing in my org? When I type, for example, John, you should have already data available in your org. You click on search or enter key, and then you should have all the records related to John. And what we are searching for is here the John Bond. Okay. Now, as you can see in the search result, we have several fields showing the information, and maybe we want to adapt this information to be more accurate to our sales work. And the first thing we can do as an admin is to handle which field will be visible in our search results. To do that, you go on the setup here, and then you open the setup. Okay. Then here you have the object manager. As we want to adapt the contact search layout, so what you are seeing here, we will search here in the object manager for the contact. You click on it. Okay. And here you will find the search layouts. Click on the link. And as you can see, you have several search layouts. You have the default layout. This is the basic layout for all the profile that will not be assigned a specific layout. And as you can see, here you have all the profiles available in your org, from the analytics to the administrator, and they are all at this moment they are all using the default layout. So what does the default layout includes? Well, it includes the name, account name, the site, phone, email, etc. And this is what we are displaying here. Go back. Sorry, I have a problem with my Zoom. Come here, you. Okay. And this is the same information that you will find back here. Okay. You can adapt what you are seeing. To do this, you have here a little arrow to access the edit. Okay. You see here the fields. And now try to add or to delete some fields from the selected field to the available field, and so on, to adapt what you want to see in the layout. For example, I don't need the account site. It's not yes, good information for me, but I want, for example, the title of the person to see if I have two different people, I want to be able to make a difference between them based on the title. Okay. And also the contact owner, I don't want it. It's not accurate to my use case. So I will make some changes. I can also change the order of my fields. Okay. To have, for example, the title first. I will choose to overwrite the result for everyone. So if I have a user that changed the selected fields to his or her a specific order, I will overwrite the preferences of the user, and then I will hit the save button. So I changed the default layout, which will also change all the default layout for all my profiles. And now if I will refresh my page and we'll check the contact, as you can see, now I have the title in the second page. This is what I added to my search layout, and now it's okay. My salespeople will see what I want them to see. Is it okay for everyone as far as no?
You're good.
Okay, if I don't hear anything, I suppose it's okay. Okay, what you have to know about the global search is that you can add maximum 10 fields to your search layout. So back to the administration. As an administrator, you have to know the limitation of the platform, knowing that here you can have maximum 10 fields, that the name is mandatory because the name is what will be used here in the result to access the record, is the general link to the record, and also the visibility of the fields that you will choose here will be depending on your permission. For example, I have a salespeople and I have a marketing manager. The marketing manager is not able to see the phone, for example. I will add the phone to the search layout. Well, the sales manager will see this because he is also able to see the phone, but my marketing manager won't see the phone field because regarding the security is unable to access this field. And the 10 fields are not related to visibility. So if you choose 10 fields and that your user see only 2 fields, well, it's you have to choose fields used in your org by the most people. Okay. Okay, so now we have Mr. John here, and we will, as you can see, we have a lot of information and we have the details, and now we will create a new contact. So click here on new contact or enter the contact global view and click new. It's the same action, in fact. And enter your own name. So fill in the first name, last name, and also company. So yes, now company, choose one of the existing. I think if you type age, you will have, for example, age communication. Okay, I will do the same on my side. Okay, and I will save it. Okay, now I have my own contact linked to the age communication. Imagine that I make a duplicate of this record. So here I have the clone button just to get quicker, to make quicker a duplicate of my my records. And the only difference will be here that I will put a title, for example, leader. Okay. Here, I don't have any potential duplicates for this contact. Why? Because I need to, in my rules, I mentioned that I have to match the contact on the first name, last name, and email address, and that is the standard rule in Salesforce as you launch your org. Now I will edit it and add here the email address. Okay, as far as now, I have two contacts, one with email address and the other without email address. And as you can see, I have no alerts that there is a duplicate in my org. But now if I will clone this one and say manager, as you can see now, the system found one duplicate. Okay, and which one is a duplicate? Well, I can check for the duplicates. We found two contacts, so the two records I just created. I can take these two contacts. You can select up to 3 contacts at the same time. Then when you click on next, you will have an overview of all the fields from the contacts with a difference between the values of the field. For example, I had the same first name, last name, and email address, and all the other fields were empty. In my case, they will only show me the title because the difference is here in this field. So I can choose if I want to keep the leader value or manager value, and also which record will be considered as the master record. So let's say you must take a record as basis, and then you choose between all your duplicates, the values you want to keep during during the merge of all your records. Is it clear for everyone?
So Dora, just a clarification, the related lists, if you had some records that are related to the contact, would they, when they get, you do the merge, they all come together into one record? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it. So in my example, I will merge the two records. Alert that I'm about to merge the two records, and I will merge it, and then I will have here in my contact the leader, because this is the value I wanted to keep after the merge occurs. And to do this, if we speak about the permission, user have to do a merge, they need to be able to delete the records, because when you merge two records, one of them is deleted from your org. Okay, it's not possible to I don't know if we say that in English, sorry, unmerge or split again the two records once it's merged, because one of the records is deleted and is hard deleted. It's not in the recycle bin. It's not searchable anymore. Okay. No, to go deeper, if in the rule that is after this mechanism of the duplicates, when you go back to the setup, so once again, enter your setup. If you check for the duplicate, you have the duplicate rules, and then you have the matching rule. When you enter the duplicate rules, it's a brand new org, so here are the standard duplicate rules installed by default by Salesforce. And here you have delete, the contact, and the account. These are the 3 type of objects where you can install the duplicate rules and matching rules. It's not possible to have other. It's not possible to have duplicate rules on other objects than account, contact, and leads. So if I go to the contact, the first thing that I see is that there is an alert. I will go to edit, maybe it's clearer. I can choose which action I will take on the create and on the edit. You remember when I clicked on save, I had an alert saying, hey, there is a duplicate. This is the alert, but I can also allow or block the user. For example, if I choose to block the user for the contact, I will save it and show you the difference. So quick back. You don't have to do this, but it's only to show you the difference. I'll take a contact, for example, this one. To have matching, I need first name, last name, and at least the email. This is the case. I will now clone this contact. Wait just a second. Okay, and here was okay, and the standard matching rule. The contact. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Title. And then colon. You see here? No, it's not possible anymore for me to save it because the system said, no, you can save this record, you have duplicate. So this is the difference. You can alert your user or you can strictly block them from creating duplicates in your org. So it's related to the strategy you want to implement for your user. But you may know that the two exist as options.
Sorry, can you try to click on save? Because I had that message and I was able to save it. It didn't stop me.
What you had, I will show you. This is so in the duplicate role here. When you have allow an alert for the create or the edit.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, you're right. When you wait, I will make a refresh because I don't know if it's taken live. Now when I clone, first I have an alert, but I can bypass the alert and click once again on save, and then this is created anyway.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, you have maximum 5 duplicate rules by object maximum. So don't. You have to mutualize a little bit your rules to avoid to have more than 5 rules, because it's not possible to add them all. And also you have limitation in the duplicates returned. You have maximum 100 relevant records returned by the system in the potential duplicates. You may think that in which org will I have 100 duplicates in my org? Well, you must know that when you have a large project like I'm working on, for example, we have 7 millions of records for the accounts and 30 millions records for the contacts. You have many duplicates in your org, and more than hundreds, because we have all the France as territory. Okay, so it's not an unusual case that you can encounter having more than 100 records. Okay, this is for the duplicate rules. Maybe we can try to create on our side a new matching rule. What we will do is to go back here to the setup, and then you have the matching rules. So the matching rules is what we how we match the records, and the duplicate rules is what we will do when we find matching records. Okay, this is the difference between the two setup. You can first deactivate the lead rules, because we will create a new one on our side. Just click on deactivate. Oh, sorry. First have to deactivate the duplicate rule. So here you enter the duplicate rule for the leads. You click on deactivate. Okay. And once it's done, you click on the matching rule and you do the same for the leads. It's okay. So first deactivate the duplicate rule for the lead, and then the matching rule for the lead. Okay. Or not okay.
I would assume that you can go ahead, keep on going.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So I will create a new matching rule. You click on new rule. Okay. And this will be based on the lead object. Yes, previously I said that you can only do matching rules based on the account contacting leads. Yes, you have also referral and individual, but well, let's say individual and referrals are objects directly linked to lead and lead account and contact. So yeah, it doesn't count. Okay, take the leads. Then click next. Give your rule a name. You should always put a description for what you are implementing as an administrator. And then what I will take as matching field is the name. So I will take the last name. And the method will be fuzzy. Exact is exact. If I type Doria, it's Doria, D-O-R-I-A. But fuzzy means if I type Dora in place of Doria, it will be also okay. So it's approximately the same. And I will take also I took the last name, the first name, both in fuzzy, okay.
Do you mind if I ask a question about the fuzzy searches?
Mm-hmm.
Usually you can configure which percentage or like how exact it would need to be. Are we able to do that here?
No, the fuzzy is a specific algorithm
Okay.
made used by Salesforce. You cannot say I want to have a 80% accuracy to match the lead.
Okay, thank you very much.
Otherwise, you should make Apex and custom programmatic solution. So you save it. Then you have your summary of your rule. Now your rule, your matching rule is okay. So now you know how you should match the records, and then you have to say what you want to do with the record. So you can create a new rule based on the lead, because the other is deactivated. Okay, I will only do an alert for the edit and the create, and here I will compare the lead with the lead, because you should also compare, for example, the lead with the contact or the lead with the accounts. Here it's leads with leads. So I will take my demo rule. Okay, the mapping is okay. You can also specify here other filter criteria, meaning that the only specific records, the duplicate rule will apply only to specific records. In this case, for our use case, we will leave it as is. Okay, this is the warning. Oh, sorry. If you have a warning, just activate the matching rule, because I forgot to activate it. Okay, so in your matching rule should be active, and you in your duplicate too. Okay, and now if you go to the leads, once it's done, and you click on new, I took first name and last name. Okay, take something else. This is my first lead, no duplicate, and then I will clone it to see what happened. Same first name and last name here in the strange. Oh, maybe it's not activated yet. Sometimes it takes time to be activated. Yes, that's it. Not activated yet.
Did you activate your matching rule as well?
Well, maybe I forgot to activate it too. Could be. Second try. No, not on contact. I'm completely lost. Here, my lead. Okay. No, it's okay. And if I add here an N, so it's not the same. You see, I have the same alert because I use the FUG. And if I use exact and I add an N, I won't have this alert. And this is how the matching rules are working. Any question?
I don't have questions on the matching rules, but then the example that you gave before, Doria, about example, 100 duplicates may be found in big organizations, big projects. Is that because there is no duplicate rules were set up to begin with, or how does it happen?
In our case, we have three different brands that were working with their own information systems, and now they are using Salesforce as global CRM. So we have to import all the data. and yes, each brand use its own information system. You have duplicates between brands, and then when you import all these records, you have the duplicates. That is the first thing. The second thing is that you can have, for example, salespeople at the beginning working with the Excel sheets, and then the IT department say, stop guys, we are all working now with Salesforce. Okay, give me here all your Excel sheets, I will import it in our org, and then you have plenty of duplicates. 100 is extreme. It's
Right.
it's true. But 10, it's not as extreme as it seems.
So what do you guys do? How do you dedupe the data, or do you just deal with it?
You have to take external tools for this. You have the best practice is to import quality data in your Salesforce org. You should not add sorry, bullshit to your org and then say, oh, I have such a poor quality of data. No, you should first make a real cleaning in your data and then import them in your org.
Thank you so much for that. And if time permits, I have one more question for you. The merge that you showed us, that was very helpful. And is the merge happens case by case, or is it always like that, or how do you do it?
You mean, is it manually fired?
If there are duplicates, like with your name and you had a leader and a different, you showed the example of leader and another one something else. When you merge two records, I could see that you could merge it, but is it like case by case manually done, or is it something for the whole set of records?
You cannot trigger merging. You have to go to your record and do it manually. But what you can do is to export your reports of duplicates and highlights where the problem are. For example, you see 10 duplicates on the same record. Maybe it's time to merge all the fields. I don't think it's possible to fire duplicates, duplicate and matching rules. No, because you don't fire the duplicate rules. In fact, you fire the merging, and you have to control what you want to merge, because you are the only one to know which is the right data.
Yeah, and just on this subject, I want to add, there is open source package, especially in education and nonprofit community. It's called Object Merge, that can bridge the gap of, if you need to do something like this, you can pick up your merging candidates from merging report object, and then insert those in object merge object, and then trigger will merge them without human. But if you need something like this, you can do Apex to create on your own solution, or you can see the object merge that's open source and start from there.
Yes, and there are also paying ISV proposing several solutions for duplicate management. Yes, duplicate management is a specialty, I should say. I worked for years before Salesforce. I worked for years as a marketing manager, and duplicate, it's a big challenge in all organizations. So we saw the search. First thing to do is to search for duplicates, manually search. Then you can prevent user for creating or editing records and having new duplicates. And the third thing you can do is block the the creation of duplicates by implementing external ID fields. So I will show you how to do
Hey,
that.
Doria, just one question before you go.
Mhm.
In the classic Salesforce, we had on the lead record, we had find the duplicates button.
Yes.
What would be replacement for this or parity in the Lightning, if any?
Wait, I will
If
go
you
back.
don't count search as option, but I understand this is happening when you already have duplicate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if I am not having duplicate, but I wanna find something that's very similar what I'm entering, there is no more option like find duplicates that we had in
No,
the classic. Is this true?
in standard, the only other option that you have is to make a global search.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see how you could. No, the only other way to search for a record is to use the search. Or to use Apex, but standard it's always better than custom. Okay, first train your user to use the standard to have a good way of work, and then use the Apex as last solution, I should say. Okay.
So how do you mean use Apex as a solution? As in write a trigger or something, or
Yes.
write another page?
For what the first option in custom, you create a trigger. The trigger is fired before your record is created, and the logic in the trigger should be: I take my first name, last name, email, or any field I want to match my records, and I will do a query to get the fields corresponding to what I entered in my form. And if I have one record written by the query, I will alert or stop the user from creating the record. So it's yes, I will block my user. The other way to do that is to use Visualforce or Lightning component to replace. Then you enter in big customization of the standard. So you skip all the standard page layout. You replace all of this with custom, and then you do what you want to do. And it's the same logic. You let the user enter the values, and then you will search in the records if you have already something quite similar existing or not, and return an error or an alert to your user. But as you can see, if you are going this way, I think it's quite a bad way. Okay.
I'm sorry. Did you say it's quite a bad way?
A bad, yes, it's not good.
Hey, Dora, I just want to give you some heads up. So you got around 15 minutes left, okay?
Okay. I will show you a third way it's a quick way to block the duplicates, and the use cases. For example, I have my products are managed not in Salesforce, but in another system, a global system externally. And I want to import all these records in Salesforce. I have a reference in my external system, and when I create a record, so when I import something from my external system to Salesforce, I don't want to have duplicates, because in this case, we will use the product, and I don't want to have the same product twice in Salesforce org. A simple way to do that, because it's not manually processed, we cannot search for the products before the system is importing it. You cannot use the duplicate rules because we saw that duplicates are only for leads, contact, and accounts. So the third way to do this is to implement unique fields. And the unique field, you can set it up by creating a simple text field. So back to the setup. We want to avoid duplication in products. So I will go back to the object manager. I will search for products. Product 2 is the basic object for products. Here you have your fields, your relationships, and you will create a simple new field, a text field. Here, text. Here, I will enter external ID because it's in fact an external ID. I will choose a length, no matter the length you choose, but you will mark it as required, because if it comes from an external system, I want it to be filled by the external system. Otherwise, I don't want this record to be created. And also I will use here the external ID because I want to be able to update my record from my external system, and my external system knows only its own ID and not my Salesforce ID. So the matching will be on the external ID. And what we are interested in is the unique, because I don't want to create duplicate values. Okay. And ABC in uppercase will be the same as ABC in lowercase. Okay, you click on next. This should be visible to everyone. I want to add it to the product layout. Okay, it's a simple example. And that's it. We are done with the add of the field. And now when you click, is it okay for everyone? Okay. You click on the app launcher, you search for products. So here. You will create a new product. I will give an external ID, for example, here, P1, okay. You can complete the other field, but it doesn't matter. I will save it. Okay. Here, I created my first product. I will create another one. To go quicker, I will use the clone button. Up. Here's my product 2. Let's say I forgot that I have to have a unique external ID, and I leave the P1. If I save, the system say no. You already have a record with this external ID. It's not possible to add this record. Okay, here is the error. But if I change the external ID and I click on save, then I will go through and it will be okay. Now, it's sure that this kind of error is not ergonomic and user-friendly, but this kind of implementation is not focused on user. It's related to external system integration. And when your IT department pushes the product lines they want to import in Salesforce, then they will have this error back in the logs, and they will be able to correct the import file. And this is why it doesn't matter that this error is sexy or not for the user. in what we are looking for here is to block the system and avoiding duplicates. All right. That is the hard way to do it.
Do we have any time for one more question?
I'm done. So I would say time for questions.
Because I was just thinking, I've been dealing with duplicates too, and I was thinking about avoiding them in the first place. Are there companies that use outside services when it comes to just having, look, I mean, let's say for accounts in particular. Look, D&B has its service, right? Dun and Bradstreet to have, so there's a DUNS number for companies everywhere. But I don't know, is there a reason why companies don't want to use services like that to first vet any account that they're creating? Is it that those listings are not complete, or I don't know? Because it seems to me that would make sense, right? If you're going to, every single Salesforce customer is creating accounts in their own orgs, and yet there's only one. There's got to be, there's got to be services out there that know every single company in the world, right?
In fact, it's more a question of architecture than a question of implementation in Salesforce. For example, the case that you will have regarding the architecture is that your external system will be the master, because as far as now, I never saw Salesforce as the main system for the information. In big projects, it's always a legacy external system that is the master of all of this. Then when you create a record, you create a kind of temporary record in Salesforce. This data go to the external system. There is a process in the external system checking for duplicates and other kind of business or logic process, come back to Salesforce, giving Salesforce the external ID, and then you have the synchronization between systems.
Kind of like a master data management kind of system.
Yes, you have to have a MDM system, and Salesforce is never the MDM system.
Thank you.
So just to, like, this is a good way to prevent duplicates, but if we have more than one external system sending in data, this will still mitigate it. This will still mitigate it, but
when you have several systems and you always have several systems using the same data, is there exactly there that where you have MDM system, a master data system, because you have a system for sending emails, marketing emails, and then the customer service, and then the legacy, and then Salesforce, and then other application. You should have a hub of data or any system considered as the MDM system, and all your edit and delete and creation will go through this system, and then this system will dispatch all the data to other systems. Yes, we could do, maybe we could do another session related to architecture and integration.
Oh, that will be awesome. I would really love that. Yeah.
Kevin, maybe you can plan it even for admins.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So is there any other questions for Dora? Because she's got just a couple more minutes before we move on to the second presenter.
I have a quick question, Kevin, and I should have gotten it, but the external ID, so when you integrate a system, external system, is that we need to dedupe it before you integrate it, so you don't get duplicate external IDs. Is that right?
You have both way, or you create, as I said, the record, then it goes to the external system. The external system say no, it already exists, and then it will ask Salesforce to delete the record and allow the user. Or when we are speaking about import from external to Salesforce, you should have clean data before you import.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I thought external ID was unique. When you create it, it's created like a unique key.
Yes, you have to, if you create an external ID key, it must be unique.
Right. And then all we need to do is, if you're banking on the external ID, to maybe just upsert the records instead of inserting. So yeah, I'm done. I'm just thinking aloud now. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. So just to let you know that Dora's given me a PDF file. So if you didn't participate and you want to do it after the fact, there is a link in one of the first pages of Dora's PDF. It'll be attached to the community page. But anyways, the point is that you can run this exercise on your own. Is that right, Dora, that these stretch things can be set up anytime?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you very much, Dora. That was really, really great. So what I'm going to do, Dora, is I'm going to see if I can stop you sharing or hosting. Let's see here. There's always the challenge using technology.
It's okay.
Can you, well, okay, you stopped sharing, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, so let me go to where I've seen him on my list. Ravish, where is he? Can you talk so I can find you in the list here?
I'm right
Oh,
here.
there you are. Perfect. I'm going to make you co-host. And now you should be able to
Yep.
share your screen.
So give me 1 second.
So while he's waiting, so guys, you're in Toronto, is that right?
Sorry, me?
Yeah.
Yes, I am based out of Toronto. Correct. All right. So. All right. Can you confirm if you can see my my slide?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much, Kevin and everyone else. My name is Ravish Raina. I'm a success manager based out of, I'm a Salesforce success manager. I work for Salesforce. Kevin had invited me over to the Ottawa Salesforce user group to give this presentation about the who sees what, specifically the aspect of user management. So really excited and really happy to be a part of this group over here. And I hope everyone is able to benefit from the presentation that I'm about to give. So a little bit about myself. I have been involved in the Salesforce ecosystem for over 10 years. I've played a variety of different roles. I started off as an admin, very much like a majority of you. Then I went over into another customer. I became a business analyst, senior business analyst. Then I actually joined a small Salesforce partner here in the Toronto area. I did implementations and custom work for a lot of different customers over here in the Toronto area. And then after that, I got a call from the mothership. They asked me to come and join, so I couldn't say no to that. So that's where I am out here. I've been here at Salesforce for the last 3 years as a success manager. For the first 2 years, I was working closely with health and life science customers, but at the start of February of this year, which is our fiscal year, I started working with enterprise banks. So CIBC and RBC happen to be my banks up here that I support since February of this year. I've I have a lot of different specialties as far as, some of my competencies are concerned, but training, enablement, governance, those are some of the areas that I'm focused on. And I really enjoy speaking on those topics as well. So once again, really, really grateful. And thank you very much, everyone, for welcoming me out here. So in terms of the agenda over here, if you haven't attended any Salesforce sessions in the past or presentations, then you'll know that this is our favorite slide, which is our forward-looking statement. The biggest takeaway out of the slide is the fact that I may be referring to something that is part of a future roadmap. So please take that with a grain of salt, and please make any and all buying decisions based on products and services that are commercially available today. All right. So with that, let's jump in. Wanted to take this opportunity to once again say thank you to everyone. Once again, just really grateful and obliged to be over here, and hope you find this session over here useful on a go-forward basis. Now, as far as our agenda for today is concerned, I'm going to be focusing a lot on the user management basics. We're going to go through user access, talk about profiles, roles, sharing rules, the basics that an admin would want to understand about the security that they want to think about and implement within an organization. We'll go over data level security as well, data access and sharing. I'm going to touch on a small demonstration in an actual demo environment for about 10 minutes or so, just to walk everyone through and just provide everyone a refresher. And of course, I will take some questions and answers, but I want this to be as an interactive of a session as possible. So if there are some questions, please feel free to put them in the chat window. And Kevin, if you wouldn't mind, trying to share those questions as well, then that would be much appreciated.
No problem.
So so like I said, this is don't try to click along. Just try to follow along. Kevin will be sharing a copy of these slides of this presentation after the call, after this session over here. So you will get a copy of all this information as well. So just some friendly best practices over there. All right. So with that, let's cover off some basics about user management. So the first thing that we want to think about is that we want to talk about the basics about logins, about profiles, permission sets, and roles, as well as data access, because these comprise of the basic levels of information that you need to control user management as well. So let's get into the who sees what aspect of the presentation. So the first thing that we want to take a step back and appreciate is the fact that any person that needs access to a Salesforce environment needs what we call a Salesforce user license. Without a user license, a person cannot get access into a Salesforce org. So that record, that user license, is actually data. It is actually a record in your Salesforce org, in your Salesforce organization. If one person needs access to your Salesforce environment, you need to use up one Salesforce license. 10 people need access, 10 licenses, 100 licenses, so on and so forth. There's many different ways with which an admin can create users or insert users into a Salesforce environment. I want to say about 90 to 95% of the use cases warrant a manual step, a manual methodology with which to create users. So what that means is that, as an example, if you are an admin of an organization and you are notified that you have a new joiner, a new person that is onboarding in your team over the next week or 2 weeks via email, you'll probably get that request via email, and then you'll insert them or create them when the time is right, whether it's the day of or the day before that they actually physically join. So that is the manual approach, where you will actually go into your Salesforce environment and you will go through the user interface and you will point click and fill out the necessary information to set them up. You could do it for 1, 2, 5, 10, whatever. Bulk CSV approach is for those situations where some organizations, they tend to onboard individuals in bulk. So what that means is that I know for one customer that they tend to onboard about 50 to 100 individuals every 2 months or so, right? So they literally get a file from HR, and they are told that we need all of these individuals need user licenses. So to actually spend the time going through manually one by one to insert all this information is quite tedious and quite laborious. And quite frankly speaking, there are ways that you can make this streamlined. So what those admins do is that they take they take that information, they clean it up in Excel or CS or whatever spreadsheet program that that is of your choice, and they add in the necessary information such as role ID, profile ID, and username, alias, so on and so forth. They add all the required information as columns in those bulk CSV files, and they do an insert. So that is option 2. Option 3 is automatic. What this means is that sometimes large-scale organizations, they have, as part of their onboarding process, they have the need for provisioning out access, not just to one system such as Salesforce, but as part of their onboarding process, they need to provide access to an individual to a whole slew of different other applications. So such as, an expense management system, or even an HR system, or finance or accounting system, so on and so forth. So there is that streamlined automated way, such as with Microsoft, where you can use single sign-on as well to sort of automate that entire provisioning process as well. So that's what automatically refers to. So like I said, many different ways, 3 different distinct ways you can onboard or set up new users in your Salesforce environment. 90 to 95% of the use cases fall in with the manual step. Okay. Now, when you set up a new user, there's many different fields that are absolutely required to provide so that you can set them up. So here is a sample set of fields that we provide out of the box. However, your own custom processes and your own business requirements may warrant for a set of custom fields that are required as well. So each unique implementation is different, but these are some fields that I just wanted to highlight. The username absolutely has to be globally unique, and username is in the format of an email address, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a legitimate email address. It's just the way that our original architects had determined that this is the way that we want to architect the platform. Username has to be in the format of an email address. So that means it needs to have the @ symbol followed by the domain and then .com, .ca, .gov, whatever. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a legitimate email address. Obviously, you should supply your name, your legitimate email address, license type. We'll get to that in a few minutes, and then profile and role. Profile and role also we'll get into in a few minutes, and stress on the need and their importance. But those are also absolutely vital to ensuring that the right person has the right information as well. So we'll get into these screenshots in more detail as part of the demo that I'm going to be doing in about 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes. But the way you would set up users, as I'm sure all of you are aware, is go to setup, search for users, and go ahead and create new users from there. There is that option for adding multi-users as well that is available in the setup menu. So this is just, once again, a set of screenshots to show the fields that are required and some of the other non-required fields. One thing I will say, though, the exception to that is that even though you'll see that role has a red band around it, which sort of indicates that it is a required field, it's one of those exceptional fields on the platform that you don't have to supply, but we do highly recommend that you do provide a role, just so that you're setting up that foundation for the appropriate data access for all of the set of individuals in your organization. So one important point that I do want to highlight is the fact that oftentimes we get this request. Okay, you run into the situation where a person leaves your organization. So you may get this request from your organization saying that, hey, Crystal left the organization. I need to delete her from Salesforce. the truth is that Salesforce does not allow fundamentally the concept of deletion of user records for a variety of different reasons. One of the most important being the fact that you want to retain audit history of when this person was set up, when they were deactivated, and what they actually did in the time that they were actually in your Salesforce environment. So for example, let's say, for example, a salesperson who has been using Salesforce for over 5 years, they have their opportunities, they have their accounts, contacts, so on and so forth. And they have their book of business, so to speak, traditional book of business in the Salesforce environment. Well, when that salesperson leaves, you don't want to delete their record from the system, because then it'll have a negative impact on those opportunities. As an example, to show, hey, this salesperson actually brought in X amount of business to our organization. So to retain that history, that's why it's not even physically possible to delete user records. What you can do, however, is you can deactivate users. The neat thing about deactivating or inactivating users is the fact that it frees up a user license count. So hypothetically, if you have used up 50 licenses in your Salesforce org and you deactivate one user, then that count will jump up from 50 to 51. So that's how you maintain, you can understand how the user license counts work as well. Okay. So now that we talked about the basic fundamentals about setting up users and users as user licenses, let's talk about user access as well. So one of the core, one really neat feature about user access is the ability to prevent or limit access into your Salesforce org, Salesforce environment using IP addresses. So sometimes organizations have this need for limiting access based on certain IP ranges. You have that ability for defining what those IP ranges could be. So by default, there's nothing to stop a person from logging in. But if you want to put a guardrail around who should, what are those set or safe IP ranges, you can do so in the network access menu of setup. Okay, so sometimes some companies have this policy where they don't want to allow their user base to log in from a country outside of Canada, or a country, maybe they want to just limit it to North America as an example. So these are just hypotheticals that I'm citing, but it should give you an idea of some of the potential use cases that you could be facing as admins as well. Another use case that you might want to consider, or you may have come across as well, is working hours or business hours. So sometimes some organizations have this policy that, hey, we don't want a certain type of persona to log into the Salesforce environment after certain, or we only want the service agents, as an example, to log into Salesforce from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. the next day, or whatever that may be. So if you want to specify what those working hours are or login hours are, then you can drill into a specific type of profile, that specific type of persona or profile, and specify those login hours as well. So that is another option that you can use should the need arise. So this is an interesting feature that we have over here. We do offer a variety of different types of password policies that you may want to implement. So it's taking a step back. Generally speaking, we're not concerned about people breaking into the environment, because it's already been established that Salesforce has a robust set of infrastructure and policies and procedures in place to prevent malicious hacking of our infrastructure. What this particular topic over here is, how do you sort of enforce that data, the good behavior within your own organization, as well as far as access to the information is concerned? So people tend to sometimes forget their own passwords. They tend to, we have apps that allow us to help us remember passwords as well, such as LastPass. So if you want to sort of implement policies and procedures to make it a little bit more robust and implement other ways that individuals should be able to reset their passwords or define password complexities, this particular screen for password policies should be able to help you out. So not only can you define alphanumeric or complexity, the number of passwords that you cannot use, you can also specify lockout effective periods as well. So just something to think about that you, as part of your own internal policies and procedures when you're implementing for your different personas as well. Now, there is this use case sometimes that if for whatever reason, if the concern is raised by your management team that passwords may have been stolen, even though it's not likely, there is this option for you as admins to avail where you can expire your entire org's set of passwords and have them all go through this process of resetting their passwords again. So I personally have not seen individuals or organizations leverage this feature over here, but it is something that you can leverage should the need arise. Hopefully you don't have to use it, but once again, it's an option. Think of it this way, there's many different options for you to avail. It's think of yourself as almost like Batman, and you have your utility belt. You don't use everything in your utility belt, but at least like you'll know that you have that option should you need to use it. Now, my domain is an interesting concept out here. It's also really it ties into access and prevention of malicious intent as well. Just for those who are not familiar, my domain is it's a feature and functionality within the platform that allows you to get your own company name branded URL. But it's just it goes beyond that. Not only do you get your own login page with your own logo and colors that you can define, but having a my domain subdomain improves your org's experience. You can implement single sign-on if you need to as well. You can simplify authentication as well using my domain. Another real benefit of having my domain is the fact that, let's say, for example, you need to use a third-party app from the App Exchange, and you need to use their custom Lightning components that they have put out on as part of their package. You need to have my domain enabled in your own org so that you can leverage those third-party apps as well. So there is that little bit of dependency as far as using my domain. So just something for you to consider and think about as you are, for example, rolling out new features and functionalities as well. It's a pretty minor change, but it will have a lot of benefit and downstream impact as well as you start configuring more and customizing your org also a little bit more. So once again, some of the benefits of using my domain are the fact that you can work with multiple Salesforce orgs in the same browser. You can set up single sign-on and improve authentication. You can use different types of authentication services, such as with Facebook or Google or LinkedIn as well. I talked about the fact that Lightning components with third-party apps also you can deploy using my domain as well. Now, this is a new feature. This is a new concept that we started introducing. I can't remember when exactly Salesforce started rolling this out. I want to say sometime late last year or early this year, but it's to do with authentication. Before, we used to have this feature or this concept called two-factor authentication. Now we've recently rebranded it to multi-factor authentication. The long and short of it is that it touches upon this concept of authenticating an individual into your Salesforce environment using a multitude of mechanisms. So the first point of mechanism that we tend to encourage is using something you know. So by something you know, we're referring to usually your login credentials. That coupled with something you have, such as a mobile device, an authenticator app, as an example, those two pieces of systems combined together have proven to show that it increases the level of security that that a person may get access to an environment. So, like I said, it's something you have, something you know, combined together is this whole concept about multi-factor authentication. Now, there are we have a multitude of webinars and resources that go into details about this. But my point is that, you know, for those of you that that may have you know, devices that, you know, where you're authenticating and, you know, sort of verifying on your phone, that's pretty much what this concept touches based on, multi-factor authentication. Okay. So yeah, just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of multi-factor authentication as an example. There are others. There are additional types of security settings that you can implement as far as data access is concerned, such as with field accessibility. So by field accessibility, for those of you that are familiar, it's also known as field level security, or FLS. Health check, I will show you guys a sample health check out of my Salesforce demo org, just to showcase some of those areas that you could be looking at from an improvement standpoint as well. And it's sort of, and the health check also sort of complements the Salesforce optimizer feature that we do offer as well. So we'll get into that in a few minutes. So once again, this is a sample screenshot of a Salesforce health check, which you can run in your setup menu. It does complement the Salesforce optimizer report, which does show usage and adoption. The health check does show, you know, from a security standpoint, vulnerabilities and potential risks. It does flag some as high, some as low, some as medium. So something for you to consider as you are planning your you know, for example, your annual security cycles, security checks as well. Before I move on to user level access, I just wanted to take a quick pause and see, Kevin, if we have any questions or if anyone has any comments so far.
I don't see anything on the chat, so I would keep going unless anybody else wants to pipe up right now.
No, everyone's getting it. Awesome. No questions. Perfect.
Can you please repeat your, you know, the first thing you mentioned? There are 3 ways you can upload the users. First is manually, then by Excel sheets. And the third one is if you have a shared login, something like a Microsoft.
Yeah, so exactly.
Identity provider.
Exactly. Through identity providers as an example, that would be the third, automatic provisioning. So it's that whole use case of that, you know, when you're, if you're working in such an organization where provisioning needs to happen to 2, 3, 5, 10 set of tools and applications at the same time, rather than go through a sequential manual manner in making sure that a person has access to all of those different systems, then some organizations do is they tend to use an identity provider as an example, such as with Microsoft, to do that deployment and provisioning access automatically across all those different systems. So you're right. Like option 1 is just, you know, go through the setup menu and do it manually. That's option 1. Option 2 is through a bulk CSV import or insert. And option 3 is that where you have those complex environments that have a multitude of different systems as well.
Okay, so in that case, we would just provide the information to Active Directory or identity system, whatever, and then that system will create the users inside Salesforce on its own, and there will be no manual intervention. And even for login, we could potentially just use the Microsoft login. We don't have to go through the Salesforce login like an SSO thing. So
yeah, in theory, it should be able to work like that. However, I don't want to get into details just because I personally have never done that. I've never worked in such a I've never actually done that as in my prior life as an admin. So I don't want to provide any misleading information. But what we can do is I can provide you with some resources. You know, I can share that with Kevin, and then, you know, when Kevin shares that with everyone else, I can provide you with some resources to get more information about how automatic provisioning would work, or maybe a webinar of some sort.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? All right. So let's get into user access and talk about profiles and permissions. So generally speaking, I've seen a lot of admins, they tend to sort of not fully grasp the concept about profiles and roles, and sometimes there's a bit of an overlap between these two. So I think I just wanted to touch base real quick on the concept and differences between the two. There's an analogy there's a saying that I like to employ a lot as far as defining profiles and roles. Profiles determine on a high level what a person can do in a Salesforce environment. Roles define what a person can see for the most part. So profiles do, roles see for the most part. There are a few exceptions, such as with profiles, you can have a view all, modify all permission, but generally speaking, profiles determine what a person can do, roles determine what a person can see. Profiles dictate how a person can interact with the Salesforce environment. Can you see this object? Can you see that tab? What does this page look like? What does a person have access to this field? These types of settings are controlled on a profile level. Role determines what a person can see. Which records can a person can see, assuming that they have access to those objects, a certain set of objects. Another analogy that I like to think of is think of a spreadsheet, right? Or let's take Microsoft Excel as an example. In Microsoft Excel, you have many different tabs, many different sheets. Profiles determine which sheets in that Excel file a person can gain access to. Profiles determine which columns that person can get access to. Roles define which rows within a specific type of sheet a person can get access to. So just something to think about as far as how to determine the differences between profiles and roles. Like I said, I like using that Excel Excel sheet or Excel file as an example, as an analogy over here. Okay, so keeping that in mind, I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as profiles and roles are concerned. So when it comes to the basics of profiles, we have object level access, we have field level access, we have app level access or app permissions, we have feature permissions as well. So a lot of what you want to make adjustments to, they are usually done on the profile level to satisfy your specific use case. Now, one topic I did want to make sure that we're all on the same page on is that there's often this conception that we can customize standard profiles. So I just want to debunk that myth that there is no way that any person can customize standard profiles. Standard profiles are provided out of the box. They are provided whenever you spin up a net new Salesforce environment or you buy a new Salesforce org. It comes with a standard set of profiles. Those are templates. Those are suggested profiles with which you can sort of mimic your own specific use cases as well. We highly recommend that you take those, clone them, and customize them based on your own specific needs, because your needs for your sales persona, your sales user, may be different than some other organizations' sales persona, sales user. So that's why we say that the standard profiles are templates. Take them, clone them, customize them, and do whatever you want based on your own specific needs. We often get asked this question, hey, I would like to perform this particular type of function or this type of action in a Salesforce environment. How do I go about doing that? I'll be honest with you, there's just so many types of functions that I don't think I don't think I met someone who has been able to memorize any and all of these different types of permissions. What we tend to do is that we tend to document all these different types of permissions in our help and training portal or help.salesforce.com. Take this screenshot over here as an example. A person needs the permission to convert a lead, right? But there's so many underlying permissions that are required to convert a lead, to qualify a lead and move it on and create it into an opportunity or contact or account. So the corresponding help and training article in online, it does provide what specific user permissions are required for an individual to convert a lead. So in this particular example, they need create, edit, and create and edit access on leads, accounts, contacts, and opportunities. They also need the single permission of converting leads. They also need read permission on any relevant campaigns as well. Another really neat feature about these documentations that are available online is that they also specify what edition of a Salesforce environment would be applicable for or would be able to perform these types of actions, right? So in this screenshot over here, it's group and up, right? I'll be honest with you, some features and some permissions are not yet available on Lightning Experience, although we are closing the gap. We have been closing the gap for the last 3 to 4 years, right? I mean, for those of you who have been using Salesforce for many years, you'll know that like when Lightning was first launched 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, it was nowhere near compared to what Lightning is today. So we have been bridging the gap. We have been inching closer towards to achieving parity with Classic. So, but sometimes we do need to call it out explicitly as well. So that's why, as an example, in this screenshot, we actually do mention that this particular feature can be done in Classic and can also be done in Lightning Experience as well. So we will go. I'll go over this as part of my demo as well. But permission sets, absolutely wonderful feature that I highly encourage you guys to leverage should you need to. With profiles, you define on a persona level what a person can do, right? But what if one of those individuals that are part of that profile needs a little bit additional set of permissions? What if you need to extend their access? What if you need to grant them maybe 1 or 2 more additional permissions? You don't want to have to create a net new profile, clone it, and give them access or provision that new profile over to that one individual or 2 individuals. No, what we recommend that you do is use permission sets. Permission sets allow you to create like a bucket of 1, 2, or whatever number of permissions that you want to provide, and then you provision out those permission sets to those handful of individuals should you need to as well. So wonderful concept. Definitely recommend that you leverage it should the need arise as well. And then I will show you all through in my demo as well on how this can be achieved. So we talked so far about profiles, what a person can do. Let's talk about row-level access or data access and sharing. So that's what the next section covers off over here. It's about, so far we talked about who logs in, how they can log in, whether or not they can log in. Let's talk about now what they can see once, assuming that they've logged in, what records they can edit as well. So this is where we'll get into more details. By default, in a Salesforce org, in a Salesforce environment, each object has its own set of sharing privileges or sharing rights that you can define. Now, I'll admit, some objects you can't change the sharing rights and privileges just because they're out of the box with Salesforce and they have a unique backend database relationship that you just cannot alter. But those are exceptions. For the most part, I want to say 99% of the objects that are available, you can define the sharing and access rights. That's what we call OWD or org-wide defaults. And the way you would access this particular menu, we'll get into that as well, is by going into setup and typing in the word sharing settings, and that's where you will be able to drill in a little bit further as well. You can decide whether an object can be visible in a private model only, or in a public model, or public read model, or public read write. So this is pretty much what I just mentioned over here. So you have the ability to define what the sharing rights ought to be for those particular objects. If you choose public, there's no security. Public is public. It means that anyone who can log in can view up all this information about leads, as an example. Private means that only the, sorry, just to level set expectations, I've talked about the leads object for this particular example. So if we select private sharing setting for the leads object, then only the lead owner and individuals above the lead owner in the hierarchy can see that lead record. So just once again, private means that only the lead owner and people above that person in the role hierarchy can see that lead record. If a person does not have a role, then they won't be able to see that role, record as well. Think of it this way. If I can see the lead and it's a private sharing model, me, my boss, and my boss's boss, and so on and so forth can see that record. Your role hierarchy determines your role. We'll get into this in a few minutes as well, but role hierarchy does not necessarily have to mimic your organization structure. It should mimic data access structure. So who should see what is determined in the role hierarchy. So once again, I just want to dispel a myth that your role hierarchy should mimic your org hierarchy. So CEO, CFO, so on. No, it doesn't necessarily have to mimic that structure. The role hierarchy should mimic the structure with which access should be provided in an organization. Okay. So we talked about this concept over here about public visibility. So we have public read only, public read write, and public read write transfer. So I think they all speak for themselves. That what sort of access rights are provided. So just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware as far as these three different public access permissions as well. So once again, if you do decide to go with a private sharing model, then you will be heavily dependent on your role hierarchy. Once again, I will mention this again. There's no hard and fast rule that you need to follow your corporate hierarchy. We've seen it happen. But is it recommended? Not necessarily. Once again, follow the standard of data access, what that access level should be like. That's what the role hierarchy at the end of the day stands for. Now, assuming that you have a private sharing model, and you have this rigid structure where your peer doesn't get access to your information or your records that you have access to. But some businesses and some organizations, as you can all imagine, need exceptions. I have this need for sharing my leads with my colleague or some other outside group, or I'm sorry, not outside group, but some other group elsewhere in your organization. So what you can do is you can use this concept of sharing rules that extend the access of records to other groups or other users. You have the ability of defining who those individuals are, whether those are individual users, whether they are groups or buckets of users, whether they are some individuals that are placed elsewhere in the role hierarchy. You have that power of defining those settings using sharing rules. I think even more important is the fact that you can define the specific type of criteria for which you want to share records. So in this particular example, in this particular screenshot, you're seeing what we call criteria-based sharing. So I want to share leads based on the fact that if a leads state is equal to CA, California, I want to share that with the sales reps. And how do I want to share it? At the very least, if I'm sharing it, they need read access. So read only is the minimum. But if I want to give them read write, then that's also another option should I need to use that as well. Okay, so with that, let me just go real quick into a demo environment and show you all what I have been talking about over here. So how do I stop sharing? Perfect. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can you confirm if you can see my screen? I have a setup menu listed over here.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. I'm just going to go ahead and stop my camera just because I'm looking at another monitor over here. So this is a setup menu. And the first thing that I want to show you or touch base on is how to set up users. So in case you're not familiar, you go into the setup menu, and you can just type in the word user over here on the left-hand side, and the option for users, you can click on that. And from here, you can go ahead and click on the new user button. Now, before I jump into setting up a net new user, one point I did want to make mention was the fact that if, let's say, for example, you have this need of expiring or resetting passwords, for two or more individuals, you have that option of doing it from this particular screen. Now, in this example, I actually selected a specific list view called All Atoms. But let's say, for example, I look at my active users list view. So if I need to, deactivate or reset passwords for these 5 individuals, I can select them using these checkboxes and click on Reset Passwords. If I want the ability to add multiple users simultaneously, click on Add Multiple Users, and then I can go from here and I can start using this wizard to start adding in multiple users. Now, it's made the assumption that all of these users will be given the Salesforce platform license type, and from here I can define that. But coming back to the user screen, so click on users, click on new user. So once again, this is the form that I showed in my screenshot. You fill out all the required fields and required information. A couple of things that I did want to make mention of is the fact that this is your profile. Now, this is your profile dropdown. Now, the reason why I only see one option over here is because the options provided in this profile dropdown are directly dependent on the license type that I have defined. So in this example, content only is my license type. Therefore, I only have one profile that aligns with the content only license type. However, if I decide to set up my net new user with a Salesforce license, so then I'll go ahead, the Salesforce license or Lightning CRM, then I'll go ahead and select that license type. And you'll see that I have all of these different other profiles available to me.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I often wonder, what's the difference between Sales Cloud license and a Salesforce license?
So it's a good question. What I've often seen is the fact that the nomenclature and naming convention is legacy, right? For example, today we tend to call our license types Lightning CRM, but I don't. But obviously that name didn't exist till we started introducing the Lightning platform or Lightning interface. So sometimes some of these license types have legacy naming conventions, but for the most part, if you see Salesforce or Sales Cloud, then they refer to one and the same.
That's what I always thought, but I've often wondered whether I was misunderstanding that or not. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So once again, if you want to see what those if you want to see what are some of the other profiles, then you would obviously go through the different license types over here. So for example, company communities, these are the community license types and community profiles, and we have a whole other set of different license types. Once again, I did mention the fact that role, even though you do see the red bar over here, it is not required, but we highly recommend that you do set this up over here. Okay, now we talked about the fact that you have this ability of cloning profiles, so you can click on profiles over here. And this is going to pull up a list of all the different profiles that I have in my Salesforce environment. And once it loads, it does show here that all of these different profiles that I have up, that I'm showing on my screen, these are all custom profiles because those are designated through this checkbox over here. However, if I want to, for example, take an existing profile, a standard profile, and clone it, what I can do is I can, like for example, the standard system administrator profile, I can go ahead and click on the clone link over here and give it a new name. And click on save. So now from here, what I can do is after I've cloned this profile, I can start modifying the permissions on this profile. I can add, I can move, I can do whatever I want. With the standard profile, I couldn't have done that. Like I said, these standard profiles serve as templates, as examples of what some of those personas could be doing. Okay. I know that we have just less than 5 minutes remaining over here, and I do want to leave a couple of minutes for Q&A. So the last topic that I did want to share is the fact of sharing rules and sharing settings. If you want to see in your organization what those default org-wide settings are, you can type in the word sharing over here on the left-hand side, select sharing settings. And once again, it will pull up the default org-wide settings or sharing settings that you have set up in your Salesforce organization. So for example, the lead object is set up as private, accounts and contacts are public read-write, so on and so forth. This list over here, or this screen, may seem overwhelming. Just to make it a little bit user-friendly, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and select accounts over here. And you can see that, oh, okay, so I have my account default sharing model defined as private. This aspect of the screen shows me all my default sharing rules. And here are some profiles that override the default sharing rules and sharing settings as well, for whatever XYZ number of reasons as well. Last point is the Salesforce health check. So if you actually type in the health check over here, yeah, you can click on health check. I've already pulled this up in advance, so you can see that this was my health check rating. Obviously, you don't want to have a rating of poor. So I personally am going to try to work towards making sure that I get this from 64% to a little bit higher and get a better rating. But what it does provide me with is a list of Salesforce recommended or Salesforce defined high risk settings or medium risk settings and so on and so forth. So if I want to sort of review some of these changes, I can go ahead and review them from this screen. I can fix the risks using this button on the right hand side, and then I can select which of these critical updates or critical risks that I want to address one at a time as well. So once again, this is a really neat feature that you should be using in conjunction with your optimizer report or optimizer feature as well. So with that, I am done with my presentation over here. So I hope you found that all beneficial and helpful. With the time remaining over here, I guess I can take a few questions.
Yeah. What is the optimizer feature that you were just talking about?
Yeah, good question. So optimizer is a feature that we typically until this past release, we actually used to have the optimizer run. You would kick off a process in your your setup menu that would run a scan of your Salesforce environment and to provide you with a PDF report to show, here are the different profiles that you're using. Here's the as an example, here are the profiles that are not being used or the users are not logging in. There's many other different data points that are uncovered and provided with the optimizer report. But the way to go about running it is by simply just typing in the word optimizer on the left hand side. So if you can still see my screen, if you just type in the word optimize or optimizer, just click on that over there, and you would now over the last 1 or 2 releases, we actually converted this from a PDF report over into an actual app in your environment. So to start using the app, the optimizer app, you can just once again type in the word optimize or optimizer and click on open optimizer button, and then there you can run the app, and then that'll actually allow you to get like a Salesforce report of all of these different findings. You still can generate a PDF if you want to, but this is the new feature that we started offering with Optimizer.
Got it. And it's somehow different from the health check, so it has a different line items in the health check.
Correct. Exactly. They complement one another. They don't there's very little to no overlap between these two features. So they complement each other. So that's why I recommend that when you do run the health check, try to also run the optimizer check, because you are doing a little bit of admin work as it is. So just make sure that you are are viewing it holistically as opposed to just through one lens.
Right. And then there are the security alerts.
Correct.
There are three things now. Okay.
Yeah. The security alerts. So the security alerts will be combined in with the optimizer alert. Sorry, not the optimizer, the health check as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much. That was a really good presentation, and I definitely learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank
so
you
what I'd like,
all for having me.
what I'd like to do is just share my last screen. Just talk about the future meetings. Just a second here. Okay, share screen. Okay, so thank you first of all to Dora and Ravish for those presentations. We always appreciate people coming to our user group and helping us educate us on Salesforce. The next thing I'll talk about is future meetings. So we have a meeting scheduled for December 15th. Nash is going to be running that, and the two topics was Access Your Org Maturity and Active Campaign. And Nash, unfortunately, has dropped off the call, so I can't tell you much more about that. We do have a tentative meeting in January. Towards the end of January, we were trying to arrange that around some Salesforce function, which might not even be happening now. I can't remember all the details. It was something that Tracy had recommended we do, and I haven't talked to her about that. But anyways, so our plan is to have a meeting in January, and also February the 17th, we'll be having another meeting. So, and as you probably guess, our meetings now are virtual. I don't know when we'll go back online or to face-to-face meetings. But anyways, hopefully COVID will end one of these years and we'll be able to get together again. Now, with regards to you're looking for a new job or a new challenge, or you just got laid off, Ross Video, the lady at Noki had sent me an email asking that she said she couldn't attend, but she said they have a CPQ CRM specialist, intermediate and mid-level job there. So if you go to Ross Video, I think it's rossvideo.com, you can go there, or you can just send me a quick email and I'll pass you on to the right website.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, anyways, thank you very much for joining us. Whoops, this is really out of date. Oh no, this is meet us in our December meeting. So so I hope this was good. So let me push the stop record. I just realized. Anyways, thanks again, guys, for joining. And one feedback I'd like to get before everybody, the hands-on workshop, the first session. I know we tried to do that once before. This was probably 4 or 5 years ago. We tried to do it with flows, and it sort of went okay. Some people were able to follow along, and some people got frustrated and just ended up watching. But does anybody have any feedback on whether hands-on workshops work for you or not? Any feedback on that?
I think what might be helpful is if you can get access to how to set up the org a little bit ahead of time, like before the actual meeting, so that you already have that set by the time you join. And if there's a bit of more of an agenda of what you're going to be doing when you're in the org, like first you're going to tackle this, and that, then you kind of can prep yourself.
Actually, you know what? That was a good point. I did 2 weeks ago when I was working. Well, actually, it was probably more than a month ago. I was working through the detail, and I said to Dora, "We need this, we need that." And then I got really busy with consulting work, and I ended up dropping the ball on that. So it's my fault. There was I should have sent this PDF file that she sent me. Then this way you could have seen that. But anyways, it's my apologies. No excuse there on my part. Any other comments?
I do find them pretty useful.